Hi guys, my name is Ram. I'm from Great Learning, and today we'll be learning a very interesting topic. Not a lot of people look at this. It's a really awesome domain, like a niche domain, but not a lot of people know about it. So, it's a good market to be in. Well, it's basically UI and UX. So, we'll have an introduction to what UX is and what UI is. But before we begin, I want you guys to go ahead and comment in the chat, letting me know that you guys can see me, my awesome face, whether you can see the presentation and whether you can hear my voice or not, because that's very important. There's a lot of times where I've just ranted without, actually like letting people hear anything. Okay. So go ahead and give me that, confirmation that you guys can see all of that and hear all of that. I'll be looking at the chat to see what you guys are saying. And while you guys are doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about Great Learning Academy. Now, this is an amazing venture that we have started recently. It's called Great Learning Academy, right? So when we talk about it started recently, it's been like almost a year now. It's something we started because of COVID, right? Because of COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of people, couldn't get jobs at all because the recession started happening because of COVID, right? So, keeping that in mind, we came up with this Great Learning Academy venture where you get courses that are completely free. So that is the whole thing about it, where you can come to the website and you can register and enroll for courses that are completely free. You don't have to pay anything. There's no catch over here. The only catch is that you have to come and put your effort in and learn the thing that you want to learn and then earn that certificate that will help you get that job you want, right? So you can go ahead and come to Great Learning Academy by typing greatlearning.in/academy, or just Google it, Great Learning Academy. The first link is the one that you need, and you can see over here we have a lot of programs that are being offered. These are the premium programs that you guys may want to look at, but let's just go to the core of it. We have the free courses. Just go ahead and type the free courses over here. Let's say that you want to learn Photoshop, then you will find a graphic design course with Photoshop, right? Or you can come down and check out the different categories we have, like data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, IT and software. And for a lot of folks who are into designing, who might be watching this live session, we have a design and video editing category also, where you have video editing basics and you have intro to graphic design with Photoshop. Right, so we're gonna come up with more design and video editing tutorials because we want to expand in that place also, because I know a lot of people actually like that and not just the technical stuff, right? Not everyone is an engineer or doctor, so a lot of people actually like being an artist and designing stuff. So that's why we're gonna come up with more courses also. All right, so that is Great Learning Academy. I hope you guys go ahead and enroll in anything that you're interested in. Right, now let me look at the comments and see what you guys are saying and what the response is generally. All right, so I see a lot of highs and yeses. That means that people can hear me. Let's see who all are attending the session today. Let's see if I see any familiar names. So we have Vishwavardhya, um, we have Shivakant, we have Saurabh, we have Vidyesh, we have Durgesh, we have Raj, Aniket, and Vaibhav. Durgesh Singh is saying Hindi nahi aati sir. Nahi, Hindi aati hai. I know Hindi, but this is an English session. But don't worry, we can have a Hindi session also if you want in UIUX. I know a lot of people actually are into Hindi, but India is a diverse country. There's a lot of people from, actually, this is not just for India, this is for all over the world, right? Anyone watching this from anywhere in the world, let's say Africa or America or US, right? So it can be from a lot of different places, and not everyone speaks Hindi, right? So English is something of a global medium. That's why we're doing this in English, but don't worry, we'll have a session in Hindi if there is a big demand for it. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about what we're actually going to learn today. That is intro to UI UX, right? So what is UI and what is UX? Let me know in the chats, because I want to understand how many of you actually know what UI UX is. And tell me, what's the difference between UI UX? Are they the same thing? Like I put a slash over here. So are they the same thing? So let me know in the chat. What do you guys think about this? Right? Let me get an idea of what people who don't know about this, who are casual to it, understand about this particular topic. So I'll wait for you guys to leave that message in the chat. While you guys do that, I want to say we'll do a UI versus UX, but I do want to see your answers. So here's what I'm gonna wait for like a few seconds. Let's see what the answers are coming in. So we have Kashyap saying it's user interface. All right. So I want to know what's the difference between UI and UX. Tell me that in the chat. All right, we already have a lot of questions also coming in. How can we get a job as a fresher? Well, that's a good question. I will answer that at the end of the session because you guys will get a much better idea, and I can tell you all the facts that I've covered in this session. All right, so there's one thing I want to make clear that this is not a course. So Vinay is asking, is this course free along with the certificate? This is just a live session on YouTube. For any certificates, you need to go to greatlearning.in/academy, right? And it's not that you just watch it and you get a certificate. You need to, pass a quiz also. So you need to watch all the videos, all the learning material there is, cover that, and then there'll be a quiz where you'll be tested on all the knowledge that you've learned. And once you pass that quiz, you will get the certificate, right? So that's what happens on greatlearning.in. But this is a live session. We will not be giving out free certificates on the live sessions. All right. This is an interactive class for you guys and me to talk and interact. All right, so we have answers coming in. Parampreet is saying, I don't know what UI UX is. That's totally fine. UX is user experience. All right, so I've got two of these things. UI is user interface and UX is user experience. And we have Nine saying, don't know. That's why I attend the session. All right, that's a good answer. I know, but I just wanted to see what all do you guys know already by this. Interaction with computer. Melvin has somewhat of a good answer. Let's explore this when we are learning about UI UX. So Ankit is saying, I know UI UX in Angular, Flutter, React, and many JS, but I'm looking for okay. Ankit, this is not the right place for that, right? You need to go to some dating app. You cannot find a beautiful girl over here. This is an interactive session. We're going to talk about UI UX. And Devarati, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Experience which we get interface what we see. You are right somewhat. UI is used to communicate between web pages and application. Communicate between web pages and application. Not really. It's a. I'll tell you guys. Let me get to that. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So I've got a lot of answers, and now let's actually get to the matter of it. UI versus UX. What's the difference? So here's the clear and cut difference between UI and UX. UI's full form is its user interface, and UX's full form is its user experience. I know that full form doesn't really suit it. It should be UE, but UE doesn't sound that great. UX sounds pretty cool, right? So that's why we have UX and UI. So user interface is something that you use to interact with something. It's an interface. So let's say you're using YouTube. All the colors there are, like the gray background, if you're using the dark version of YouTube, or the white background, and the font size of the all the letterings there is on YouTube, all the colors that they used, that is part of UI. It is the visuals that a particular application or a particular website shows you. That is your user interface. It can be the animations, it can be the typography, it can be how it visually appeals to you, right? So UI is about guiding and appeasing the user visually through their eyes. But what is UX? UX is user experience. It is about basic, it is about designing an experience for the users. What does that mean? So user experience is something what a user experiences when they come to a website. So let's say you've come to YouTube itself, right? You look at all the different visuals and you understand different things. From the visuals, you get the idea that you have a subscription button, you have your bell icon, you have a lot of different features on YouTube, right? And here UX is basically how YouTube is guiding you. Like if we go through the mobile app has so many different things, right? It has the home explore button. You know what, let me just show this directly to you. Let's actually take the example of this website over here, that is greatlearning.in. So this has a UI as well as a UX. Now here the UI will be the button over here, the colors, the typography that is being used, Virat Kohli's face, that is a part of your UI, right? And UX is basically how you go to the product or how you go to the service that is being offered. So the service being offered over here is um it's your free courses. So the guiding experience for you to go to your go to the destination you want to, that is the experience, right? So there are people who are UX designers. What they do is they come inside the mind of the user and they try to see what the user would like. So let's say I am a UX designer and I want to understand what you guys want to do. You guys want free certificates, right? So how will you reach that destination? So to reach that destination, what you will do is you'll first go to greatlearning.in/academy, right? And once you come over here, you look for the thing that you want. You want to select a course. So the first big thing that you'll see over here is select a course. So once you select the course, it will take you to the different categories of courses there are, right? This is the experience you're experiencing where you want to enroll into intro to graphic design in Photoshop. So you'll enroll now and it will take you to the enroll page, right? Where it will ask for your email address and all those kind of different things. So you can see it's loading and I'm already enrolling in the course. So this is very easy. You don't have to put in a lot of effort. So the user experience designer who created this experience for us kept in mind that you guys don't want to go through a lot of different garbage and you don't want to see unnecessary stuff. So he had that select course in the starting itself. So that's the difference. UI is basically your visuals and UX is how you experience something. Like if is the product really awesome to use? Is it very intuitive to use or not? Right? And UI is just, visual aesthetics. So that is the difference. Do you guys have any questions? Leave them in the chat and I'll try to get to them as soon as possible, right? I hope that made a clear distinction between UI and UX. All right. So I'm going to start off by discussing UX. Not because, UX is cooler, it is, but I'm going to start discussing UX because I'm a bit more biased towards it. I think UX has more importance over UI. Now, UI definitely does play part into it, but me as a person, I think UX is much more important thing. Like you can have a simpler website that does not look that great, but it serves the purpose very, very well, right? So that matters a lot. So let's start discussing UX. UX's full form is user experience, right? And it started to come out about pretty, early in the 2000s and even before that. Like whenever actually user experience is not something related to just software. You can have user experience with products also. So let's say that I have a good example would be let's say a very simple thing like a hammer, right? So how good is that hammer? Like do I have to put in a lot of effort to do a lot of different things? No, I mean it depends on your okay, hammer may not be a good example over here. Hmm. A good example would be okay, let's say table. So the table you are using, right? So how well does how well is it designed so that you can do whatever you want? Now, table serves two purposes from my thinking. First, it is the working place. So most tables perform that very well. But what about the storage place aspect of it? So how far is the cupboard from you? How far is the drawer from you? So that is a part of your experience. So that is something that is not related just to your or software. It can be there a lot of different places. But UX generally is about software, so don't worry about that. So when we talk about user experience process, how does it happen? How do you start thinking about something? So there is a big process behind it, but let's think of the questions that should come to your mind when you're thinking about user experience. So the first question that should come is, who is that for? So if you look at the Great Learning Academy again, let me go back to the main page over here. One second, guys. Let me just. So the first question is, who is this for? So keep yourself in the position of the user. So let's say that this user is a person who's a fresher, just out of college. Now, they're not exactly sure about what they really want to do in life. They are unsure about things because they've been told by the parents to look at something, they've been told by their friends to look at some career, and they have some sort of idea about what they want to do, but they're not exactly sure, right? And generally the society is like, be an engineer, be a doctor, because that's the best place for you to go and earn a living, right? Which is true, you can earn a living, but that's not living life. You want to do what you really like doing. So as a UX designer, need to know who this is for. So I need to know the user very well. And there I start making user stories where I think of different examples of users and different demographics. Or I don't need to think. If there is already historical data available, let's say that Great Learning has been doing this for a very long time and they want to update. So they will have historical data. They'll know who actually comes to the website. So there also you can go and learn who is this product for. So as a UX designer, you really need to know who is this product for. Then that is the demographic. So you understand what kind of crowd are you attracting. So let's say that this is the fresher crowd. So understand this fresher crowd. What are their needs? What do they want? What do they actually use? Wants are different than needs, right? So you may want something, but you may not need it. So that is also there something to consider. So you need to know who is that for and what is the demographic. Then what is the business about? As a UX designer, you will be learning about the business process behind of it. Now, this isn't a business per se. This is like a free venture, right? So if you talk about any of the paid programs, those are your, you know, paid stuff. So that's where you think about the business. So over here, you need to understand the whole pipeline of everything. You need to understand what the business does, what is the end goal of it, and how does it work internally, so that you can properly frame your process, the user experience process. You need to understand the business process end of it. What is a product and what is a service? So that is again relating to what is the business about. The business is about e-learning and it's about education, it's about teaching people. But what is the product you're selling? What is the product you're part of? You're part of the postgraduate certificate program where you teach software engineering students about data science, right? So that is the product. That's the specific certificate that you're gonna earn once you pay for it. Then you think about, who do we compete against? Are there any competitors there for this particular program? How do we, do better than them? We look at the things that they have done. We try to get as much as information about what they have done, understand the whole process that they have, and take that process and improve upon that process. So in UX, in designing, no particular design philosophy is owned by anyone. So let's say I go to apple.com. Let's just say apple.com is our competitor. They start making, courses and all. Not really, but I go to apple.com. I try to look at the experience they're trying to deliver to me. I see the first thing that they want me to see is iPhone 12, right? So why is this in big and bold? Because that's how the designers designed it. When a person lands on apple.com, they should see this. So the person who's put this over here, he knows the business in and out. He knows the product that he's selling, right? So he's designed it in such a way that the user gets to see what he wants to see, as well as the business side of it, what they want to show us. So iPhone 12, blast from the past. These are two things that I see first, and the pricing is in lighter gray, so you can see by visually also that they have made sure that you don't look at the pricing first, whereas you look at the product first. And some people might even just glaze across this. They might not even look at this. They'll just scroll down and they'll see this beautiful iPhone there is, and they'll scroll down and they'll see even more beautiful visuals. So this brings me to the point that user interface is a part of user experience process, where the visuals you see, that is also an experience, right? Now it in itself is a big field. User interface learning, UI is a big thing, but it is a part of your user experience also, right? So you can see the iPhone 12 Pro in big, and then you can see the beautiful phone that there is, at least a beautiful image of that phone, right? They will not put a cracked phone over here. So from what am I learning from my competitor? From apple.com, I'm learning that I need to have big bold letters. So maybe I'll come back over here and I'll rearrange it in such a way that I have this postgraduate certificate software for data science in the middle in bold. And you can see that a lot of other things have been similar already, where you highlight the things that you want to show, and you do not highlight the things that you don't want to show in the first go. You show it in the second go, when the person reads through the page once and then he scans through the page second time. When you scan through the page second time, that's when you read these kind of things. So this is how you basically emulate what other people are doing. Who do we compete against? What are the design philosophies? Nobody owns any design philosophies. What might work for apple.com will work for us also, because we're in the same field. And if it doesn't work, how do we improve upon it? So those kind of questions. Then how do we behave using our, how do users behave? So this is where the testing part comes in. So testing is a big thing about user experience process, where you have to test rigorously everything. So I'm 100% sure that the designers at apple.com, they had multiple versions of their website, so they did multiple different testings on it. So they had like hundreds of people coming in and looking at the websites that they have and scrolling through it, basically trying to experience it. And while these users are doing it, so just say these are fake users, these are not real users. Apple specifically brought in these people to see how these things are, how do the people use it. And while they're using it, so let's say I'm one of those fake users who's been brought in to test the website out. So I go and look at all of these things and I click on buy and everything. So what the UX design over there is going to do is he's going to monitor each and every aspect of what I'm doing. He's going to see that, okay, I scroll down pretty fast and I clicked on buy. So that is something that I'm behaving about. So behavior is very important, because sometimes people say something and they actually like something else. So I will get into more detail about that when we talk about the Netflix A and B focus testing. That's something that I want to tell you guys. It's very interesting. All right. So let me come back. That is one question. And another question is, what kind of impact do we want to make? So this is kind of like a personal question also. As UX designer, what kind of impact do you want to make? What kind of things do you want people to experience? And all those kind of things, right? So that is also there. And as a company, what kind of impact you want to make also. All right. So this is basically the kind of questions you need to keep in mind. Last question, how does the business process work? Which is similar to what is business about, but you learn more intricate details about the business process. All right. Okay. So now I want to go into the process of all of it. How do you start doing all of this? Before that, I want to answer some of your questions before I proceed, so that you guys are not left without getting your questions answered. So Mickey's asking, sir, would this live session be recorded or uploaded over YouTube in course session recording? So again, this is not a course. This is just a live session that we are doing, and this video definitely will be available. So if you are not, inclined right now, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon, so that when it gets uploaded as a video, you'll get a notification. Right, Mickey? That's for you. So we have questions coming in, like Kundra asking, can anyone learn UI and UX? That's definitely true. Anyone can learn UI UX. You do not. So that's the amazing caveat about UI UX, that you don't need a lot of prior knowledge to get into it, right? So if you have that kind of mind where you want to understand, you have a lot of empathy, you want to understand what other people think about, how do other people, basically how to give them an amazing experience. So that's when you know you can become a UI UX designer. So there are a lot of different positions and roles available over here. So there's the UX role, there's a person who does both UI and UX. So let me tell you in brief. So UI is generally, you'll have like maybe let's say three positions. You'll have the developer, you have the UI developer, and you have the UX designer. So UI designer and UX designer. A lot of times UI and UX are the same role. Like the person handles the same thing, right? And the whole development part of it is done by a developer. But in a lot of startups, the UI, the UX, and the development is done by the one person, right? So in that case, you'll need to know coding. But in better or bigger companies where they have enough resources just to expand, they will have singular UX designers. They'll have teams of UX designers that whose sole job will be just to test different types of design philosophies and design processes, and have different designs for people to experience so that they can choose the best one. And then they'll have different UI designers who just look at the visual appeal of all of it, right? And so they'll have like three separate roles in all of it. And again, it can depend from company to company, and you do not need a lot of prior experience to get into this, right? But if you have a design degree where you've learned graphic designing, then it's a little easier for you to come into this kind of role. It's easier, but it's not compulsory, right? So Netra is saying, so basically understanding the hierarchy is important to design any information. Yes. Um, Hierarchy, I'm not exactly sure what kind of hierarchy you're talking about. If you're talking about the design hierarchy, yeah, you definitely do need to know that. Like you need to understand how other people, explain what is more important. Like sometimes some things are more important than others, right? So they will have more importance. Like I showed you guys with the Apple iPhone 12 Pro has the highest priority over here, so it will be in bold. All right, so we have sort of asking how UI UX helps in graphic designing. Do give your insight on this. All right, so as a graphic designer, you'll basically be working on creating graphics, and you might work as a video editor also. So in that position, how does learning UI UX? So UI UX is like a step over that, I would say. You do not go from being a UI UX designer or developer to being a graphic designer. I mean, unless you really want to. It's actually opposite. Go from becoming a graphic designer to UI UX. So I can tell you how you get the skills you need as a graphic designer to become a UX designer or UI designer. So as a graphic designer, you get a lot of experience about how to create visuals, right? So if you go to free pick, you'll see that on free pick, all the graphic designers come up with a lot of different designs and they put it up, and they do so for a lot of different purposes. So they will be given a goal, like let's say any first image that loads over here. So this is the image, and here you were given a goal to create a very relatable image about people working together, right? So this is about remote meetings. So somebody gave you that goal as a graphic designer, so you have to get into the mind of your customer and understand what do they really want to see, what is your own art style that you want to implement. So it is kind of an art, right? So you show it. So when you talk about remote meetings, how is it, how do you do it? Do you just show one laptop, one person, one laptop, another person, another laptop? Well, that is easy. But this person went with a different idea. He showed windows and people coming out of those windows, right? And talking to each other. So that kind of gives you an idea that people aren't talking directly, but they're talking through different windows. And that's basically internet, right? So that is your remote working. So with that, you basically start getting an idea how to make it more uh, attractive and more not interactive. This is not interactive. Yeah, basically you get an idea of how to make it more interactive. You try to better understand the user, right? So that's how you get the insights. अमित कुमार सिंह हिंदी वाले सीख सकते हैं या डेफिनेटली तुम लोग सीख सकते हो. अभी के लिए इंग्लिश में ही रहेगा but we can come up with a Hindi one. Since I'm seeing a lot of people saying Hindi, I might actually put once ask for a session in Hindi also. No, 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 Melvin. This is not front end versus back end. Front end is about creating the front end. That is developing it. That is writing the code for it. Back end is for all the different processes that happen for the website. So over here, this is the front end, and the back end is probably how they upload the images, where the database goes, and all those kind of things. UIUX is different than that. UIUX kind of relates to front end development. So I think Suk, I don't understand if that's Vietnamese. I do not understand Vietnamese. All right, so I think that's enough questions. All right, so Mickey asks, is this one day session or a course coming first live? Many classes till course is complete. No, this is just a one day session that I wanted to do for you guys. All right, so let's go through the UX process. The first what you do is you do research work where you try to understand what your goal is and you try to understand your users. You create user stories. You basically go through your competitors, do a competitor analysis. You understand the historical data that your company may already have, and basically you try to understand the business part of it also. So that is the research work. Then comes the wireframing. So when we talk about wireframing, it's like storyboarding. If you guys know about movies, right? In movies, a director does not directly shoot a scene. What he does is he first draws it. Like he draws stick figures, and once he draws stick figures, he knows how his actors will be in that position. So let's say one actor is coming with his knife and is going to kill someone. So the director is going to, draw it out first. And once he draws it out, he gets a clear image of it. And then he shoots that scene. Similarly, even UX designers cannot create these websites directly. What they need to do is they need to create a wireframe of it. Wireframe, as the name suggests, is exactly what it is. It is wires framing everything. So if you guys want an example, I'll show you. I have an example over here. All right, so I don't know how clear this is going to be. It's a little light, but I think you guys can see. So this is the wireframe. So this is a wireframe for a website that I wanted to create. It's for like an IPL based website. You guys can see a lot of different wireframes. Like this is where the image is going to be. This is where the text is going to be. This is the navigation bar. And I've left a lot of space over here. And you guys can see the bar over here in the bottom also. So that's your wireframing. Now comes understand revision requests. So this is where you send your whole project, whatever you've done so far, the research work, the iframing, to your stakeholders, to your product owners or to your team lead, and they'll basically look at it and they'll see what kind of changes they need to you need to make. They'll tell you those changes, and then you start working on those changes that have to be made. Or what you will do is you'll do testing, but testing comes a little later. So this is probably just with stakeholders and team leads. So you will start creating prototypes. So prototypes are basically moving, they're like higher fidelity wireframes, where in wireframes you start adding images, you start adding visuals, the colors and the text, right? You don't add the whole text because that's the job of a content creator. You'll just add some random text and all the colors, you start adding it. So your prototypes will generally look somewhat like this, right? Or like this. So they'll be like moving. They'll have a scroll bar and you can check out a lot of different things in it. So that's your prototype. And once you create your prototype, in the next step, you have to understand the revision requests again, where you send it for review again. Your stakeholder, product owner, your client, or your team lead is going to review it. They're going to give you changes, and you start making those changes. And understand that whenever you wireframe and when you make prototypes, you don't make a single one, you make multiple ones, because you have different design philosophies that you may think you want to implement. And for that purpose, you create multiple versions of them. Right. So this is the most important part of UX, I might say, testing, because sometimes you create something you're not sure will be successful. So you have to test it out really well. So once you've created your prototype and you think you are ready for users to actually test it, you're gonna have a focus group. If you guys have heard of focus groups when they do for television, right, where they have people coming and looking at animated shows and TV shows and see whether they like it or not. Like you look at the focus groups. So that is basically where you test it out. So you have a lot of people come in, review your work, not review your work, basically test your work. And while they're, basically testing your work, you look at and understand their behavior. This is the user behavior. You understand how they're behaving to the website, what are the comments about the website, and all of those things. Once you've understood all of those different things, you basically understand the feedback and then you apply what you learned. And this is when you make the final website, right? So, or your final UX, UI, or user interface, right? So, this is the UX process. So, what is a wireframe? Wait. Before I go to what is a wireframe, I just want to see if you guys have any more questions. So Kashyap has a very good answer. It's called a blueprint. So wireframes are like blueprints. When you want to make a house, you don't make a house directly, you create a plan for it, right? So wireframes are kind of like plans. Django or Node.js for backend in web dev really depends. I'm more of a Django guy, but Node.js is pretty good too. Depends on your company you're working for, man. Um, did Great Learning provide UI and UX developer course? We are working on it. There is on GLA. You guys can go ahead and subscribe to our weekly letter so that you get informed when we have the UX UI course coming out. But we're definitely working on it. Shahid is saying, "Hi, I'm a junior front-end developer, but my design skill is poor. I don't know how to combine colors and make a distinct UI. What do you suggest to improve upon it?" So, Shahid, you have asked a good question. I'm very proud of this. So, you've actually said that you're not good at designing. That's totally fine. You slowly learn it and slowly understand. So, there is something called color theory. As you're talking about, you don't know how to combine colors well. So, go ahead and Google color theory and learn color theory. Okay. So, color theory is very important when you're talking about user interface, which is something I'll come to. Okay. Um, what else suggestions can I make? All right. So first, the best suggestion I would make is look at everyone else. I know this is not what I should be telling an artist, but this is something you need to do. Let's say you're a front-end developer, then go to apple.com and see what they've done. Understand what they've done, how they've done it. You may not always do the understand it, but going through competitors is very important. Or not just competitors, just any person. Just type in good UI websites. Once you do that, you'll see a lot of different websites that have a really good UI and see what are the things that they're doing that is good. Or go to a website like Amazon and understand the user experience if you want to go into that part. Because Amazon has a very simple UI. It does not have a very intricate one, but they have a lot of resources to expand. So you have to ask yourself the question, why are not they putting a lot of more effort to add more animations and everything? Well, that's because from the business point of view, it does not make sense to add animations. They already have a big demographic and they don't want to confuse and overwhelm their users where it's not needed. So over here, they don't need to give us any very hotshot animation or hotshot colors because what they know is that simplicity works. Well designed experiences work. Over here, what do you see? The first thing you see that there is a sale over here, right? So that is important. Or you see Prime membership. So that is what they're trying to sell. So you understand that because this is a big company, has a lot of resources. Why they're not expanding it on making it more beautiful? Because they know they don't want to make it beautiful. They want to make sure that you buy their products, and to do that they make an amazing experience. So I'm telling you that this particular website has a lot of different patterns that you will not be able to understand because they've focus tested this many times and they've come to the perfect version of it. I hope I answered your question, Shahid, before I diverge on to talking about UX. For UI, I definitely recommend going to other websites and checking out what do they do and what do they like. And again, check out color theory. It's very important because that's how you learn what how to combine colors. Okay, the fundamentals of color theory and a lot of different things. All right, so let's move on. What else is there? So can we UI UX without code? Yes, Melvin. That is something I really enjoy too. I like coding, but it's a separate thing. UI UX is something you can get into without knowing how to code. If you know HTML, CSS, that's good. It always helps to have extra knowledge, but here it's strictly not at all mandatory. You can become a designer without knowing how to code. So just take those statements. You can even quote me anywhere, right? I know a lot of designers who know nothing about coding but are amazing designers. They don't have to know about coding for this. All right. So Arvind is asking open source tool to create wireframes. I am going to get to that, but since you asked already, Adobe XD is pretty good. It's free. You can use it on only on Windows 10, however. So if you want to use, you can go ahead and use this. Or Figma. Figma is also another one, but I think it's a paid tool. But it's paid only if you have 4 people. So it's paid for companies. For singular use, you don't have to pay for it. All right, so what is wireframe? Wireframe allows us to get a basic idea of layout of any website or application. We can create wireframes to plan how the content of the website will be displayed in the end product and more things like functionality, user flow, and page structure. So yeah, so you get to understand how a website is going to be functional, right? Like where is everything going to be placed? That is also very important to understand in a wireframe. The user flow. How will a user move his eyes, scan through the page, move through the page? All of those things are also very important. And page structure, that is a part of the things that we just talked about. We need to structure your page in such a way that you have an amazing user flow with good functionality. They are basically used to create an early proof of design. As I told you, this is basically like starting from a planning phase. So this is a proof of design, and hence there can be multiple versions of it also, right? You always have a lot of different versions in the start, and you slowly start reducing them and removing those things removing those designs that you don't think will do well, or people have told you that they won't do well. So you can think of them as a blueprint architect draws up before anything else for constructing a building. So wireframes and blueprints, very similar, as someone suggested in the chat. All right, so what is a prototype? Prototype is a functioning layout design of how actual website looks like. So I've already told you guys this. Okay, now comes the very interesting part. It's the Netflix example of user testing. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you are acquainted with Netflix. It's a streaming website or a streaming service where they stream a lot of different shows and movies to the users. After obviously they pay for it, right? So their website is very well designed. I have to say this really honestly, that all the other companies try to follow the design principles of Netflix. Like you have Hotstar, you have Prime, and you have all the smaller ones also like Woot and whatever is there. They try to follow the design principles Netflix has in its place. Netflix is a very well designed streaming service. Now, the thing with Netflix is that they employ a really good user experience designers whose sole job is to make sure that the website or the user experience for the product is smooth and the best one. So one of the techniques that I've learned from this is that they use A/B testing. So A/B testing is a very interesting testing form of testing where you have multiple versions that you want to test. So there are actually two sets over here. First, you have the control experiment and you have the other experiments. So the control experiment is basically an experiment where you have your own website that you're actually using currently. So let's say, let's go to Netflix's website. Right. So you can see Netflix's user experience. What do they want you to see? You see that they have a lot of different shows in the background. And these shows, right? There is a specific thing. You can see that these shows have been directed specifically for you because Netflix/India. So you have Indian shows also, or things that Indian people might like. So they've kept that in mind because they want to make sure that the demographic is getting what they need, because different demographics react differently. A US crowd will react differently to an Indian crowd. You already know because of culture and because they're different people, right? So they think on even that level. So what do they ask you first? Ready to watch? Enter first. It's unlimited movies, TV shows, and more. Watch anywhere, cancel anytime. So this is what they want you to know. And ready to watch? Enter your email and start your membership, whatever, or you can just sign in. So the thing with Netflix is that they have a specific UI, UX, basically a design, and the current design they have, they consider that as a control experiment. A control experiment here is just their website, and now they have all the different versions that they think might do better than that. So those versions, and with your control version, what they do is they ask users to come and start testing it. So let's say that you have 10 designs, 5 designs. Out of that, 5 are your new ones, and one extra is your control experiment. That is the current website. And these are the new proposed designs. So what they do is they get in hundreds of users to test these 6 design templates, and they monitor how these users interact with them. They understand what the users have to say about it, because a lot of times user might say that they really like a website, but after time and time use of it, they might get bored of it, or they might not like it again, so whatever user says is not what the user wants always, okay, or what the user needs. So that is something that has to be monitored, and that's why user behavior is monitored. So over here, what they do is first they test with these 100 users. So for the first time, these 100 users will go through all these 6 designs and they'll give their feedback. Now, a popular design will come out of it. Let's say that the first design became the popular one. People liked this the most, and you thought that this design did better also. Then what you will do is, then again you will have another set of 100 people or another set of 1,000 people, and you'll ask them to test it also. So this way you'll have multiple layers of testing, and out of this multiple layers of testing, you'll see which one did the best, because those first 100 people might not give you the conclusive answer you want. And you'll do this multiple layers of tests for different demographics also. You'll have an Indian crowd testing it out, you'll have an American crowd testing it out, you have a European crowd testing it out, and for everyone you'll come up with those specific designs. So what interesting thing that did happen in Netflix's case was that the current design they have in the control experiment was the one that won. The new designs that they proposed did not win. Well, this is one time of Netflix doing it. I don't know what's happening right now, but this is an example they gave themselves, right? So you can understand how much of an interesting field it is, because sometimes the thing you have actually is the best one. What isn't broke, you don't have to fix it. So that's Netflix's example of user testing and telling you guys how important testing is. So here are the tools that you guys can use for testing purposes. You have Adobe XD, which is a very good tool. I would recommend you guys check out Adobe XD. If not, Figma is a good tool. Go ahead and try Figma out. This is also free. It's a browser-based tool, right? It's a collaborative one. So you guys can see that how it has a design and all. Yeah. All right. So you see that these guys have different names. That because they want to show you that they are a tool that allow collaborative designs together, and they keep that in bold also, where teams design together. So these guys know what UX designing is, user experience designing, right? There's no fancy, colors over here. There is a good animation over here, but the main thing they want to show us is that this product is about people designing together. So yeah, this is another tool you guys can use. This is a paid tool if you have, I think, 4 people using it. If you just using one person is using it, then it's free. Okay. All right. So then we have Photoshop and Sketch. Photoshop is for people who already know Photoshop and they want to get started. Photoshop, you can use Photoshop in conjunction with Edge XD. It really depends on you. Sketch is there for Mac. If you're a Mac user, you can go ahead and use Sketch, and InVision is another one that you guys can use. All right, so these are open source basically. I think Sketch is paid. I don't have a Mac, so I don't know. All right, so these are the UX tools. Let's move on to the best tool of all. I want you guys to guess what is the best tool of all. I'm gonna wait for this answer because I want to know if you guys understand this or not, or if you guys can think about this. What is the best tool of them all? And it may not be the part. One second, guys. All right. Yeah. Sorry. So go ahead and give me the answer in the comments. What is the best tool of all of them? You don't even have to consider. It can be any tool. It may be a tool that is not part of the things that I showed you. It can be anything. Okay. What is the best tool for UX purpose? So we have a lot of question. So what languages are perfect for UI UX? You do not need a language to learn for this. English is good enough. That was a bad joke. Suggest programming languages for UI UX. Again, you don't need to know any programming languages. It's you can start doing it without coding. Adobe looks free for personal use. Any tool recommendation for free prototype and design? I already told you. So we have a lot of answers coming in finally. Vishwavardi is saying XD, someone saying Envision, Santosh is saying Envision, Yuvraj is saying depends on you. True, that is a good answer. Open source, yep, Adobe Photoshop, the ones with hardware acceleration. I like that answer. Thank you. The ones with hardware acceleration. Yeah, that's true. But I think the best tool of them all is pen and paper. Yep. So pen and paper is the best tool, and you will see this with really good designers. They always carry a pen and paper or a notebook, a small diary with them, and a pen with that, because that's where you can do it very fast and very easy. So wireframes are something you don't take a long time. So you need to come up with wireframes quickly, very quickly. So on computer, it may take a few seconds, and it may be a little bit more clean over here. But when you want to come up with a quick design that comes into your when you want to implement an idea that quickly comes into your head, that's when you do use pen and paper. Let me give you an example. I've done this, and in one of the sessions, I was trying to make an IPL website. I was wireframing an IPL website. You guys can go ahead and check out that, that live session. I explain all of this in detail, and I also talk about designing an IPL website. So for that, I had created this. You guys can see I've done a very rough work over here. They're not very straight lines, but you guys can see this is the same website. Before making it on XD, I made it on pen and paper. I wrote down some ideas like IPL stuff, what is important, the match is important, player details important, points table is important, match itself, and the highlights and previous scorecards and IPL news. And to be honest, I did not get these ideas by myself. I thought them as a cricket fan, and I looked at the competitor analysis. That is, I went to the IPL website itself, right? And I looked at it. Again, this is another side of it where I have the points table, the points table over here, the team matches, and all of those things. It's a quick design that I came up with. It took me like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I came up with it. And on basis of this, I made the wireframe on XD. All right, so pen and paper. Cool. Now let's come to discussing a user interface. Since I took up most of my time on user experience, I gave you guys some idea of user interface. I'm so sorry about that. User interface is again what I told you guys earlier. It is about the visual appeal of your particular software or the website that you have to offer, right? So it is the interface that human has with it. Now UI is a part of your UX, but it is its own domain also. Now I want to give you guys an example, and I want you guys to notice something. So when we talk about UI concepts, there are a lot of different concepts. You have visuals, you have iconography, you have the mood of your website. What is the vibe? If you guys have you know vibe, right? Like what's the vibe of this particular thing? What is the typography? What that means, like the font size, the font coloring, the font, the font that you're using, and the motion design, like any animations or any those kind of things, and interaction design, where how does when a person hovers over something, does it change color, does it become more opaque, or does it fade away, those kind of things, right? So you have a lot of different concepts with UI, right? Now these concepts are important to understand. Now there's one thing that I did not write over here, that is color theory. that we talked about earlier. Color theory is also important. As a designer, you need to keep all of these kind of things in mind as a user interface designer. Now, keep this also in mind that I'm more biased towards UX because I like UX more, but I will try to do all the justice there for UI also. User interface. So this is where you design the visuals of everything. Now, if we come back to the apple.com, they might have a UI designer also, where the UI designer basically decides what the colors are going to be. The UX designer might not decide that, where he'll decide that this has to be gray, this has to be a darker gray, and this has to be blue for COVID. And if we come back, if you scroll down, this is completely black. This is a contrast to the white. Does that look good? Maybe they tested it out and they thought that it looked good. And how will the images appear over here? Will the images be edited? Will they have a fade away over here? How will they look in contrast to the background over here? All those kind of things, right? So you guys can see a visual contrast over here where this is white and this is dark. Why is the dark over here? Because they want to talk about privacy. Maybe they want to emphasize the privacy over here. And the design of the Apple logo is something that they've changed. So that is again a part of UI. So graphic designing comes inside of UI, right? So that is a part of UI. But you may have different graphic designers and different UI designers also. So that is basically your UI concepts. Now you can see that UI matters a lot also, because if I show you guys the same concepts but in boxes now, it looks a little bit better and you guys can see it a little better, right? You can understand all of these things better. Now there is another way I can do this. I can have icons going with it, like visuals, icons, interaction design, typography, mood, and motion design. Now you guys can understand these concepts much more clearly because I have a visual going with it. So visuals are very important because humans, react to visuals a lot more than they would to just letters, colorful things, right? So this is why UI is also important, and these are the tools you would use with UI. GIMP is an open source tool. If you do not have the money and if you don't want to pirate because of your principles, then you can go ahead and use GIMP. GIMP is a very good tool. I would recommend GIMP over Photoshop any day, but Photoshop is also very good. It's a little has a steeper learning curve, but you have to make do with what you have. Then Adobe Illustrator is very good for creating icons and logos and all of that thing. Creating logos is also a part of user interface also. And then InVision is again great over here. And you have a lot of other tools, right? So these are the UI tools. And again, best tool of all of them. Can you guess what is the best tool over here? The best tool of all of them over here. I'm going to let you guys leave a comment in the chat. Let me see if you guys can guess this one. All right, so they're asking Kashyap and Mickey asking how long would the session be? Oh, we are almost at the end. It's generally we have a 1 hour session. Most of our sessions are 1 hour. We are already at the 1 hour mark. I started like little like 4 minutes late, so I'm extending a little bit. Don't worry about it. But I need the answer. Best tool of them all. I don't like this lag. It takes so long for your answer to reach me. All right, so we have answers coming in again. This is an interesting answer that I think you guys will not get again. Anime coder saying Adobe Illustrator. We have AAB saying coolers, and we have some people saying pen and paper. Is that the right answer? Pen and book. Someone saying Photoshop. Someone saying Adobe XD, and someone Loha said pen and paper. Let's see what the answer is. It's pen and paper again. Yes, even UI designers carry pen and paper with them because it's much easier to plan things out with your hand, right? Even if you're drawing something, even if you're thinking of ideas, you jot them down and on a piece of paper, on your notebook, whatever you have, right? It's much more easy to do it on that. So again, I think it is one of the best tools for this purpose. If you're a good UX designer, if you're a good UI designer, you will always carry a pen and paper with you or pen and notebook with you to jot down ideas. It's not to say that you have to use only these things. You can use them in conjunction with other tools and you will have to also. All right, so we have some few questions also that I wanted to answer. Like Mona Lisa asks, I hope that's your real name. That would be cool. A UX new design ideas may not be available in UI. How to deal with it? Can you extrapolate on that answer, like elaborate what you're trying to ask? Because I'm not getting it totally. UX new design ideas may not be available in UI. How to deal with it? See, I want to answer this, but I'm not exactly sure of what you're asking. Like, ask it again. I'll answer it when we finish this up. Ayush is asking how to integrate front end and back end. This is not the class for that. You can go ahead and ask other, trainers for that. All right, so we finally come to Q&A. So guys, go ahead and ask your questions and make sure that you ask them properly because I may not understand them if they're just words. Okay, but I do want to answer your questions. So we are in Q&A now. Oh yeah, so Sheila answered, your mind is the best tool. All right, your mind is the best tool. Okay, fine. Mind is also the best tool, but from your mind you cannot show it to your stakeholders or your team lead, right? How do you show it to them? You show it in a notebook. So Mickey saying AI full form is Gen Artificial Intelligence Adobe Illustrator. So it depends on the context, Mickey. If you want to talk about AI, then it is artificial intelligence. But in graphic designing world and designing world, your AI is Adobe Illustrator. I mean, but people just say call it Illustrator. They don't call it Adobe Illustrator. No, these are not similar. They are not similar. Artificial intelligence is totally different, dude. That's like intelligence that we create by coding and all. Adobe Illustrator is a tool that allows you to create logos and icons and all that. Vikram is asking, what is the scope of UI UX design in future? UI UX has a lot of scope. This is a field that you guys actually should be getting into right now. If you want to get into it, this year is the right year, because from next year it's going to get oversaturated, because the thing is human computer interaction is becoming very very popular very fast. You will not even see it. It will happen in like a blink of your eye, or a snap of your finger. Human computer interaction is becoming very important these days, and you can even do masters in this kind of field, right? You can do PhD in this kind of field, because the scope of AI is increasing, and the scope of data science is increasing. So our interaction with systems and computers is ever increasing. So human computer interaction is also becoming a more and more important field. So I would recommend definitely getting into this thing right now itself. So guys, please go ahead and ask your questions, Q&A, question and answer. Then we can go ahead and end the session. Yes, yes, yes. Vikram talked about mixed reality. Augmented reality will also be implementing human computer interaction. And that's where the new whole domain of user experience will come in. I think the design principles will be a little different over there. I'm not exactly sure about it. I've not worked with augmented reality, to be honest, obviously. But it's a very interesting field, and I want to understand more about it. Like, how we're going to implement it and what kind of skills will we need for that kind of purpose. Now, how it's related to blockchain, I don't know. I'm a little uneducated about blockchain, but here's what. You've given me some thought, I will think about it. But mixed reality is something really awesome, like augmented reality and virtual reality. That's where your human computer interaction will be of the craziest amount. Yeah, that is another field also where you will see a lot of growth. Guys, if you don't have any more questions, then we can go ahead and end the session. All right. So I'm going to assume that all of your questions are answered. Well, guys, I really enjoyed this session. There was a lot of people came today, and a lot of people were very interactive. And I saw Kashyap from start to end also. That's a very awesome thing. Kashyap is a regular guy who comes to all of our sessions, and I really enjoy that. Thank you so much for coming, all of you. and I really enjoy teaching you guys. Again, I want to tell you guys about Great Learning. It's awesome place. You guys can just type in Great Learning and Academy, free courses, free certificates. You don't have to pay anything. All right. So go ahead and check it out. And my name is Ram. I'm from Great Learning. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Stay tuned for my next session and to watch my beautiful face talking to you guys, to you beautiful audience.